Dear children, hope you are fine and safe. Here we would like to discuss how to write review or critical appreciation of a poem. It's important for both first year and the second year. You have to keep in mind 5 points while writing review or preparing critical appreciation of a poem. The first one about the poet and the title. The second one, the theme of the poem, and that should be the core of your review. Third one, the figurative expressions or the poetic devices used by the poet in the poem. Fourth one, the message or messages of the poem. The last, fifth one, your personal impression or your reading response of the poem. Let's discuss one by one in detail. The first point is about the poet and the title. About the poet. You just name the poet in your review. That's enough. But understanding about the poet helps a deeper comprehension of the poem. In the case of any woman, we can see biblical reference in the concluding stanza of the poem. We studied a poem in the first year, William Wordsworth's poem, To Sleep. William Wordsworth is called the father of romantic poetry. His ardent love towards nature is very evident in the first stanza of the poem To Sleep. When we analyze the poem Mending Wall, the poem begins something there is, and the elements of mystery is typical of Robert Frost's poem. He is not sure of what causes the gaps in the wall. Many of his poems are symbolic and philosophical. He begins his poems in delight and ends in wisdom. It is true in the case of the poem Mending Wall too. His typical inconclusiveness is also found in the poem. Just write one or two sentences about the poet if it is needed. Title of the poem. Title of a poem is to be focused well while writing review of a poem. It often functions as a pointer to the theme, tone and mood of the poem. A title may be symbolic, paradoxical, ironical, suggestive, etc. In the case of Mending Wall, the title is symbolic. The poet doesn't like mending wall. At the same time, to the neighbor, mending the wall is a necessity. The symbol wall is metaphorically used throughout the poem. From the title to the last line, good fences make good neighbors. When we analyze the title of any woman, the title is not the woman. It shows the universal appeal of the poem. Here, you may write 2 or 3 sentences commenting on the title of the poem. The second one is the theme of the poem. It should be the core of your review. A poem may have multiple layers of themes. For example, the poem Mending Wall, it has a theme of wall, the theme of limit and limitations of human relations, theme of tolerance and fraternity, theme of the modern and the ancient, the theme of unity and democratic spirit. What about the theme of any woman? The first poem in your textbook? The love of mother is precious and unconditional. Celebration of both womanhood and motherhood. What about the theme of Death the Leveler, a poem studied last year? Nothingness of wars and greatness of good deeds. Or we can say momentous victory versus eternal glory. Here you just write about 12 to 15 sentences in your review analyzing the theme of the poem. The third point is figurative expressions or poetic devices. What do you mean by figurative expressions? We get the real meanings of some expressions when we go beyond the literal meanings. Such expressions are called figurative expressions. We use such expressions in our day-to-day conversation. When we say, "You're my heart," that doesn't mean you're inside me as a physical entity. That means you are dear to me, you are close to me. In Malayalam, we say, "Near puliyanu ketta." That doesn't mean you are an animal. It means the person who is spoken of is powerful and mighty. A good poet uses such devices to add a special effect to the poem. They make the theme of the poem very effective. In poems, we can see figures of speech such as a simile, metaphor, personifications, the sound devices like assonance, alliteration, and use of imagery, use of images, and all these can be found, and they make the poem something special. You can write 4 or 5 sentences in your review analyzing the poetic devices used by the poet. The fourth one is message or messages of the poem. Here you can write 3 or 4 sentences in your review analyzing the messages of the poem. In a sense, we can say every poem itself is a message. What is the message of Mending Wall? We should hold up the spirits of tolerance and fraternity to make a harmonious living possible in a democratic society. What's the message of Any Woman by Catherine Tynan? Love and care of mother is precious and unconditional. It's a sort of celebration of motherhood and womanhood. In the first year, you studied the poem Death the Leveler. What's the message of the poem? We have to do maximum good deeds in our life so that our good deeds will be bloomed from the grave, spreading fragrance around. Earthly glories are momentous, and good deeds are eternal. Again, another poem, Sunrise on the Hills. What's the message of it? Nature has healing power. It can wipe out our tears and sorrows. So go to the woods and hills if you really want to keep your heart and soul alive. The message of the poem is also very important. Your personal impressions on the poem can be written in your review. Every poem offers multiple layers of meaning to the readers. It may differ from person to person. A poem can be viewed from different angles. How you feel the poem? Good, impressive, striking, touching, excellent? You can write how the poem touches you. Here you can write 2 or 3 sentences in your review, analyzing your personal impressions.
Dear friends, here you have an assignment. Prepare critical appreciations of the poems, keeping in mind these 5-point focus. Send your assignment to the e-forum. The selected one will be presented as the E4E module. All the best.